The most important election in Brazil.
This short documentary I will address the elections in Brazil. In October 2022 there will be elections for state deputy, federal deputy, senator and president of the republic. This event is being considered by some political scientists as the most important elections in the history of the republic. Brazil is now considered the breadbasket of the world. Its production is of vital importance for food security around the world, especially in China. It has continental dimensions and its plant and mineral diversity draws the attention of several heads of state. The international market sees Brazil as the goose that lays golden eggs, as it has to offer many products that are in short supply in other territories. We can say that Brazil has the potential to feed 1/3 of the world's population. Brazil has deposits of rare minerals in the world such as niobium, with 98% of the world's reserve. We have uranium, oil, and the Guarani aquifer, the biggest in the world. To the north, the Amazon forest and the imposing Amazon River with its biodiversity. In short, Brazil has all the potential to be a great nation. And this election constitutes a watershed. The pre-election situation is polarized between two candidates who represent an ideological contrast. On one side, a socialist and former President Lula, and on the other, the current conservative President Bolsonaro. Lula has the support of 9 of the 11 ministers of the Supreme Court, which he treats with partiality when it comes to a case against the government. There are even ministers who make political speeches and intervene in the legislative power in order to favor the rival candidate. All this despite the Brazilian constitution that prohibits such positions. 3 of the 11 Supreme Court justices make up the Superior Electoral Court. This parallel court administers voting, legislating and adjudicating electoral cases. One of his ministers, Luis Roberto Barroso, was recently caught saying offline that election is not won, it is taken. This same minister usually participates in live and makes statements normally against the government. His attitudes are more identified as a militant political. Another court, Alexander de Moraes, pursues conservatives through illegal inquiries, such as the fake news inquiry, in which he convicted several people of crimes not described in the Brazilian Penal Code. The greatest victim of this minister was federal deputy Daniel Silveira, protected by Article 53 of the Constitution, but his immunity was not respected. And the president had to give a pardon in order to correct the abuses committed in this process. The counting system used in the elections is the first-generation electronic ballot box, used only in 3 countries, as it does not allow auditing of the vote count. Only Bhutan, Bangladesh and Brazil are against electoral transparency, and here in particular, the ministers of the Electoral Court defend these ballot boxes without the impression of tooth and nail. In previous elections there are several indications of fraud. Bill 135 of Federal Deputy Bia Kicis was being discussed in the Constitution and Justice Commission, and had everything to pass, which would result in the implementation of printers in these upcoming 2022 elections, allowing the auditing of votes. However, once again the then-minister Roberto Barroso met with the owners of the parties and convinced them to change the CCJ deputies who would vote in favor of the project. This interference has once again caused indignation from the population, who are well aware of the vulnerability of such unprinted urns. As elections approach, people are persecuted for the simple fact that they are against it. Many are blocked by internet platforms. The verification companies echo the thinking of these ministers and have become an instrument of persecution, that is, they have become the owners of the truth. Of the 11 ministers of the Supreme Court, 9 are supporters of democracy without people. They pressure parliamentarians who have a case in court, and thus the people are ignored without aspirations and sovereign will. The reflection of this critical situation is demonstration throughout the national territory against the arbitrariness of the ZAE and STF. Innocent people persecuted, blocked on the platforms by their determination, and in many cases they are deprived of their liberty. President Bolsonaro has the support of the majority of the Brazilian population. To his legacy of good administration, since he recovered the losses of state-owned companies left by Lula and Dilma, and his reputation as honest and the defense of principles defended by a large part of the population, i.e., God, fatherland and family. A fact is very clear to those who walk on the streets and feel the pre-election temperature: the overwhelming majority of the Brazilian population supports President Bolsonaro. Just look at the images of the demonstrations for and against the government, unlike what they say. The research institutes with their obscure methods. Everything is heading towards a dispute full of misinformation from the mainstream media, especially Rede Globo, which advises its journalists to speak ill of the government at any cost. The best way to find out what is actually happening in Brazil regarding the elections is through social media. As broadcasters have parties and depend on a government to supply them with advertising dollars, something Bolsonaro does not like to do. Finally, Brazil is not for amateurs. The dispute already shows that the modus operandi is not always Republican, and that the people in general are tired of being deceived by false promises and will not accept a result that is not chosen by the people themselves.